So you want me to talk about me and money, two of my favorite subjects. So my name is Brian Gruber. I grew up in the housing projects in Brooklyn, New York, and when I was a lad, I looked at in the 60s and 70s at the state of television and found it to be sort of falling short, and so decided I was interested in a career in media. I started my career working for a state senator in the Bay Area, getting out of graduate school, and I really wanted to get into cable television, which at that time was sort of the holy grail of new media. At that time, most of the major American cities were not wired, and cable programming was mostly retransmission of broadcast signals and crap. And then met Brian Lamb, who in the early days of C-SPAN, he asked me if I'd be interested in moving to Washington and become his first marketing director. Washington, I built C-SPAN's national distribution, started to get into the marketing end of the cable business. So was marketing director and VP of marketing for a number of cable TV companies, overseeing marketing, sales, programming, PR, customer service. A former employer called me from Sydney, Australia, and said News Corp and Telstra just did a deal to build cable nationwide, and would I like to move to Sydney? But basically, after leaving my last corporate cable job in LA, I was consulting for a variety of companies. And what I saw was there was this great content happening at events like Colin Powell spoke at their national meeting 2 days after he left the State Department. It wasn't being recorded. And so lots of stories like that. And what I saw was that it was possible that what could happen now with online video could be similar to what happened in cable television, which is that with the seismic shift in media technology and economics, you can create new brands and new media experiences that were not economic before. And you know, Court TV, even HBO, CNN, basically they created brands around new user experiences. So the idea behind Fora TV is based on a premise that tonight in cities around the world, brilliant ideas are being presented in public places, and that content is not being aggregated and not being delivered in a way that people can effectively use it. So there were two basic things we did. One was content aggregation. So I went out to the top public forums in the world and I said, give me your content for free, and we're going to monetize it and not share the money with you. What do you think? The nature of online video is short attention span. So we raised money. I'd never raised money before. I'd worked for startups that raised money, and as the head of marketing, I was in charge of lots of revenue at cable companies. But we raised $4 million over about 3 years. But I think almost without exception, all the investors had a second bottom line, which is that this is something that needs to be done. They like the passion and the vision involved in it, and therefore don't know how much money it'll make, but want to invest in it and be a part of it. We reach about 1 million people a month. And so that brings us to the monetization question. And the answer to that, which is the pivotal question, is that because you have to make something sustainable, whether you can aggregate all of these small little niche bits of content, and by cross-pollinating and aggregating and syndicating it all, something that might draw a small audience, you aggregate enough content, you'll create a bigger audience. But sell advertising, for example, sell Chevron on the idea of sponsoring our energy programming, or Pfizer sponsoring our health programming. I also sold syndication deals to companies like the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, which is the PBS and NPR of Australia, where they have access to all of our content and they use our platform, they co-brand it, and there's an ABC Fora channel. One, if there's something that you're interested in doing and you don't have the skills to do it, you may decide to do it anyway. So one of the great things about our project is that so many people were turned on by the idea that they contributed either for equity or just to be on the board of advisors or just because they wanted to participate. I think that the model now for new forms of content is kind of unproven. The advertising model is collapsing. The model for paid content, in theory, is good, and I think that services like Fora have to get there, whether it's charging for downloads or selling subscriptions or whatever. But getting from here to there will probably be a painful process because of the way that the internet consumer and the media consumer in this country and in the world has been so trained that everything should be free, that there's only certain types of content that people, with the deluge of information and media they have coming at them, that they're willing to pay for. So, and I also think that with the advent of YouTube and iTunes and a lot of other platforms, that people want to be in that public square. And so what we did is we have freelance videographers in major cities, and to prime the pump, we would do like their first 5 or 10 programs for free. And then once they realize, oh, there's a platform for it, now I see that it's worth doing, because before they would have it recorded, it would sit in the shelf, they wouldn't know what to do with the video. Then we help them with production as well, and now we charge for that, which is one of our revenue streams. You can go online and, for $700 get a Canon HV30, HD camcorder with a $200 tripod, an XLR cable, and you're in business. So once they see there's some value, if they're not willing to invest $2,000 or $3,000, then they're not serious. For a while we were using Google AdSense for video to monetize some of our content where we were not selling out advertising inventory. But we reach about 500,000 people a month on YouTube. It's our biggest distributor. The challenge is, getting back to your monetization question, it's one thing to say, hey, great, we're on Comcast, or we're on Verizon, or we're on, but the amount of revenue you get from these deals is sometimes like lunch money. I think we're in the early nascent stage of the online video marketplace, and there's no immediate business models that are working easily for a lot of people, and the people who will succeed are going to be the people who kind of plug away at it and are able to sustain themselves through this period, not only in the macro economy, which is horrible, but in the micro economy of online video. I think you have to pierce the fantasy that just because you have a story to tell and you have a creative aspiration, that A, anyone cares, and B, that you can sustain yourself doing it. But there's no thing out there that says, if you do it this way, and just because you're that cool, or that you're that creative or smart, that there's necessarily an economic model there. And now, events like the Long Now Foundation or the New York Public Library, where they do multi-camera shoots and post-production, very high-quality cameras and professional lighting and professional audio engineers, that stuff always gets more traffic, and it's much more compelling. So I think quality does matter, but I think if someone is simply interested in having access to important information, then you just have to achieve some minimal level of quality technology innovation. And one answer is that we've chosen now, for better or for worse, not to invest in a lot of original platform development. But I also think that you had better be innovating in user experience, in distribution, in production on a constant level, or you just get left behind quickly.